Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing tonight? Thank you for joining our YouTube Live. We're very excited that you're here. My name is Cassidy. I'm a financial aid administrator here at Purdue, and I'll be chatting with you tonight about paying for Purdue. We're going to give people, if you'd like to go ahead and tell in the chat where you're from, that would be great. All right, let's see what we've got here. My apologies, I was just pulling up my chat. So, it looks like we've got Michigan, California, New Jersey, Chicago. Oh, lots of people joining from everywhere. That is so exciting. So I'm from Valparaiso, Indiana, up north a little bit. I did my bachelor's here at Purdue, and then I did my master's at Gonzaga University in Spokane, Washington. So I don't know if we have any Washington State people out there, even Spokane people. But great place. Oh, Seattle. Yep, I've been to Seattle. And how is the time change treating everyone where you're at? Is it lovely or still getting used to it? I know for me, it's been a little bit of getting used to the time change. And even my dogs are like, not knowing what time they're supposed to get up and get let out and all of that. Which, speaking of dogs, I actually wanted to talk about dogs real quick while we're here chatting, because I know it's so hard leaving your pets when you're away from home. But if you're coming here, I want you to know, be assured that there are plenty of humane societies, places where you can volunteer, and it's super fun. So definitely getting that little plug in there, because it's kind of exciting, just a little piece of home to know about when you're coming here. But it looks like we even have people from Saudi Arabia, India. Oh my goodness. Well, we are very happy that you're all here. I do have moderators joining us in the chat as well. So there are a few people from my office in financial aid. You should be able to see them. They'll be able to introduce themselves and have a little tool icon by them. So when they're answering your questions, you should be able to see who's a moderator and who's helping out with the chat, which will be very useful as we keep going. But it looks like we have lots of Indiana people here, lots of local, and then a lot of people who have to travel too. So it's good to have you all. I'm giving a couple more minutes here, and then I will dive in. I know this is usually a pretty well-attended YouTube Live. Lots of people want to know all of the paying for Purdue, which is totally understandable. I'm going to go ahead and make one of my people a moderator here. I just saw him come in. Looks like Kirsten introduced herself. We have David. We have Caitlin. So if you've been in some of our other chats, she's typically on the chat helping out. Kind of a jack of all trades there. And yeah, everyone from our office has tons of knowledge as well. I've got Chris, Kirsten, and David joining us tonight, and they should be able to answer all of your questions. So I'm going to go ahead and dive in. We've got a little bit of everything to touch on tonight, and I'm going to also answer some survey questions that were submitted to us. So we'll just go ahead and get started. So if you just joined us and didn't hear me, my name is Cassidy. I'm a financial aid administrator here at Purdue, and I've been here for about 2 years, but I've been part of the Purdue community for longer, as I did do my bachelor's here. And thank you for joining me on this YouTube Live. It's really exciting to have you here. Tonight, we'll be answering your questions about paying for Purdue. So what I'm going to do first is give you a general overview of your important next steps. If you haven't already, I do also recommend watching our YouTube guide for a more comprehensive rundown. And we'll have one of our moderators go ahead and place that in the chat. So if after this you want to take a look at it, you can. But during this overview, as I mentioned, I will be addressing some questions we received in advance. And then all of our moderators in the chat will respond to live questions. So just keep them coming as they come up. And if we don't answer your question during this broadcast today, please reach out to us. You can email them to facontact@purdue.edu. That's F as in financial, A as in aid, contact. And a representative will reach out to you. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. The very first thing I really wanted to talk to you guys about tonight is activating your online student career account. So if you haven't activated it already, you need to do so ASAP. You can literally open another tab here and get it set up while you listen to me talk. The important things you'll need to set this up are your Purdue ID number and a temporary password that was provided to you in the offer of admission letter. Now, setting up this online student career account is very important because it's not only going to give you access to your Purdue email address, but it'll also give you access to My Purdue, which is your student portal. You can kind of think of it as your student hub where you'll manage not just financial aid, but if you do come to Purdue, your registration and a lot of other activities as a student. Important note, some people think that you have to accept your offer of admission in order to set up your My Purdue account. Not the case at all, though. Go ahead, set it up. We want you to so that you can view all of the essential information to make your decision if you haven't already. So the moderators should be able to post the link in the chat to My Purdue. And also just kind of a cool tool is that you can just go onto Purdue's homepage and you'll be able to access My Purdue there. So once you do have your login set up, and I'm sure a lot of you have been able to do that already, explore your My Purdue portal and explore that financial aid tab. You did need the My Purdue account set up to view your financial aid award notifications. So as I mentioned, I'm guessing that a lot of you have done this. But again, it's very important because whether you're viewing the award now or as a returning student, you'll be using the financial aid tab a lot to view your future awards, to accept or decline certain types of aid, and manage requirements associated with your aid. So again, just can't stress enough, set up this career account. It'll make the transition to becoming a Boilermaker very easy and give you all the information you need. Okay, second big reminder, if you haven't already, submit your Fafsa. And again, these first couple of steps are probably things you've already done, but it's always a good reminder and just overview to get you into the swing of it. You will need to submit the Fafsa each year, which is why we like to talk to incoming students about this. This might not be a process that you obviously have done regularly yet, but you'll want to do it each year. And we recommend that you file the Fafsa before Purdue's March 1st priority filing date. The reason behind this is filing by the March 1st priority date ensures that maximum consideration is given to you for all types of aid that you may qualify for. Again, a lot of this is probably old news to you as most of you submitted the FAFSA probably when you did your admissions application. There are a lot of different dates for incoming students versus returning students. So, this is likely done. But if you haven't submitted it and would still like to, definitely submit it. For next academic year, so the 2020-21 year, you'll be using your 2018 tax information. The FAFSA always uses information from 2 years prior. So, some families think that they have to wait till they filed their taxes to be able to file the FAFSA, but this ensures you should already have the information you need. And we also make sure families and students know, don't go in and change anything once you filed the FAFSA. We want the 2 years prior data. So right now you're using 2018 tax information if you still haven't filed that FAFSA. And a reason for filing the FAFSA, even if you think that maybe you or your family don't qualify for certain grants or, free money, as we might call it, filing the FAFSA allows you to do two very important things. The first is it allows you to borrow federal student loans. Often federal student loans, if you need to, use a loan at all to finance your education, it's a good first option because often the interest rate is a lot lower than anything else you're going to see out there. So just having that ability to borrow federal student loans, it's good to have, and it's one reason why you'd file the FAFSA. The other is that we do need the FAFSA on file in case your situation changes. So maybe there's a job or income loss or an astronomical out-of-pocket medical expense that comes up. And maybe we need to recalculate your information to see if you can maybe qualify for something else. In that case, we want the FAFSA on file so we can compare the data side by side. So ahead of this, in the survey, we did have an interesting and somewhat complex question from Arlena come in. It's kind of a three-parter, so we'll talk about each part and unpack it. She asked, do you automatically defer to the expected family contribution indicated in the Fafsa? And then she says, for example, if it says that we have a 25,000 EFC, is it assumed that the student would have to pay that 25,000? And is there a chance to appeal the Fafsa amount? So this kind of large question really includes a lot of questions we get fairly often. So this is a great point here to kind of explain some of the information on the Fafsa. So the expected family contribution, or EFC as we abbreviate it to, it's a number generated when you file the Fafsa, and every school is going to receive the same Fafsa information from you, and your EFC will be the same from school to school. And basically what it is a number that we use as a benchmark to determine your eligibility for aid. But what an EFC does not mean, if you see an EFC of 25,000, that does not necessarily mean that we think the family is going to be paying 25,000 out of pocket, nor is it your bill. Really, instead, it just gives us an idea of the level of financial need for the student and the family. And again, just kind of helps us know what financial aid you do qualify for. It's also important to know, not all types of aid are need-based, but quite a bit are. So kind of if you're curious about, what you're seeing on your award notification and wondering what each type of aid is, always reach out to us and we're happy to explain that a little further to you. And then the part of the question, is there a chance to appeal the Fafsa amount? As I had mentioned, and I think I'll also get further into this because we had a couple of other specific survey questions related to this, there is a chance that you could do what we call a special circumstance appeal. And it can be filed when your situation has changed and you don't think that the EFC quite accurately reflects your current situation. So again, always a way, potentially, if you think there's a situation that might change things, we can take a look at that for you. All right, so, you have your My Purdue account access, you've got your Fafsa filed. Next, really, is reviewing and understanding your award notice, which is a big one I know for a lot of you. So when a financial aid award is generated, an email will be sent to students and parents potentially if we can. So sometimes our office gets a little bit of confusion or parents are wondering maybe why they didn't get a copy of the email. So for the financial aid award notice emails, that will go, if we can, to the parent's email that was on the Fafsa. It's really the best way we can verify that that is indeed the parent of the student. And so sometimes, maybe if it's not one you've actually used recently or it went to one parent and you're wondering why it didn't go to the other, that's typically why. But anyway, you'll be notified by email. Students will always be notified by email. And this email will simply tell you to access the My Purdue portal and head to the financial aid tab to see that award notice. So, when you first log in, there's this kind of general financial aid overview section. And that's going to be a pretty quick breakdown. It gives you the amounts. It gives you the type of aid. It does its job. Often returning students, they can take a quick glance at that, see what's changed or not, and it's great. However, we recommend, especially for incoming students, for first-time college students, first-time college families, we have a nice, handy, printable PDF version. And that's actually your formal and official award notification. And that walks you through each type of aid you received. We're going to go ahead and have the chat moderators put a link that gives you instructions on how to view that PDF on My Purdue if you're kind of confused on where to find that. It should be pretty easy and memorable once you've done it. But again, look at that PDF because it'll show you each type of aid, and it's also going to have a message associated with each type of aid, letting you know the requirements associated with it. And then I really like it because it's going to include the estimated cost of attendance. It'll show you your estimated or your gift aid, so any free money that you might have that doesn't need to be paid back. Then it'll show you your net cost after that. And then depending on what types of financial aid you have, maybe you're offered federal loans and you're wondering if you should take those or not. It'll then take you to that line, your self-help aid as we call it, and it'll show you what your remainder would be after that and just kind of walk you through those different scenarios. So again, it's a good kind of helpful decision maker, and that would definitely be the one that we want you to go ahead and try and view. We don't send anything out through mail anymore. So again, that's why my Purdue account is so important, and it's why accessing this PDF is so important. All right, so in the survey ahead of time, Ray sent us a question related to this, and they said, we're out of state. Can we still expect any scholarship notice from Purdue to reduce out-of-state tuition or not? So the award notifications that most students should have received, they're final. You shouldn't necessarily expect anything else to be coming. I do like to tell students, I know that, when we're in the world of trying to compare, where should I go? And I got a scholarship from here and not here. Again, make the best academic choice for yourself, but also the best financial choice. We always want you to do a wise combo of the both. And what you're seeing your freshman year, definitely base your decision on that, plan for that. However, there's always different opportunities in the future. So I'll get into this again, but each year you're able to apply for departmental scholarships through your department. So that's always an option for future years. And after that, it's basically looking at if, you have a little bit to make up and you're wondering what you're going to do about that. We typically tell students and families to start maybe looking at private lenders or into the Parent Plus loan. The Parent Plus loan, it's a federal loan. It's in the parent's name, and that can go up to the rest of the cost of attendance. Or then with private loans, you can look at banks, credit unions, whether it's a small local one or a big name you've heard. Just compare, look at your options. We have a comparison tool on our website that I can probably also have our moderators put into the chat. But basically, there's other types of aid, even if you still want to look for private scholarships, but it's going to be more something that you have to go out and apply for. It's not going to be necessarily included on that financial aid award notice. But I would plan for the financial aid award notice to be final as of now, so that way that can just help you make your decision. Now, Jeremy sent us a very important question that may apply to a lot of families, and it's kind of what I talked about before. So he says, my family has had a change of circumstance from the time financial aid forms were submitted. What should I do now, and who can I speak with regarding this issue? So this is a good time. I'm going to get a little bit deeper into that special circumstance appeal, since it's a question we get a lot, and a lot of you are probably wondering about. So as mentioned, we can explore a special circumstance. What's going to kind of generate getting this process started is speaking with a financial aid counselor. Because what we're going to do is ask you some questions, really explore this situation, and simulate if doing an appeal makes sense for you, if it'll benefit you in any way. So it's really important for you to come to us with as much information about your situation as possible. And we'll look at it, we'll run a simulation, and we may be able to work it out, where we want to use your current numbers and generate a new EFC. Sometimes it makes a huge difference for students, and, we'll tell them that whatever this big change was, put you in the range for a Pell Grant now, or, something else that would drastically alter their aid. Sometimes it may be something as simple as changing from an unsubsidized federal loan to a subsidized loan, so one that's not accruing interest instead of if it would be. So still a benefit. We will check to see if there are any benefits to using current information and processing a special circumstance appeal. And this doesn't need to be done in person. While if you are on campus, you can surely visit our office in Schliemann 305. You can contact us by email, that facontact@purdue.edu that I mentioned, or call us. Our call center is open at 765-494-5050. We're open from 8 to 5, Monday to Friday, and that's the Eastern time zone. So if you're wanting to call, just try to plan it around then. That's probably a good way to just speak with a counselor and go over the situation. And then Mary had a question about her daughter's financial aid package. She says, the financial aid package has changed for my daughter 3 times. Why is that, and will it continue to change? So with a question like this, I would say we definitely want to look at that person's account to see exactly what's happening. So I would definitely encourage the student, parent, someone to reach out and ask us questions. But what probably happened when you're seeing a financial aid package change is that we essentially noticed that something changed in the family's information. So maybe they were going through the verification process, or there was a correction on the Fafsa, something that made the financial aid different. Something else you can do before contacting us if you're ever curious or you know something changed but you're not quite sure what. Again, looking at that PDF version of the award notification is super helpful because it'll give you a history of all of them. So you'll have them if you're a student here for 4 years, when your aid changed all 4 years. So you could bring up the 2 side by side and see what exactly is different. And maybe that sort of helps you answer your question. But again, feel free to contact us and we can let you know for sure. Generally, unless information changes or something new comes in, though, the financial aid awards should be, where they're at, not change too much. Okay, so then Isabella would like to know about college scholarships. She asks, when can we expect to see the scholarships we've been offered through our individual colleges? So she's referencing specific school scholarships like the College of Liberal Arts, not the merit scholarships, but just the specific college scholarships. And she asks, when and how will the College of Agriculture notify us if we received any scholarships? So if you received one, it should be there on that award notification. But there is always a chance as a returning student to apply for more next year when your college gives you the information. If you have to fill out a separate application, you'll be communicated what those requirements are, but always a chance to continue to apply for them. Sometimes a department may reach out to you directly to let you know, but typically your award notification each year will be when you know for sure what scholarships you have. So just always kind of use that as your guide and you should be good. All right, so we've unpacked a lot as far as reviewing the award notice goes, and now it kind of goes deeper into just making sure that all of your requirements are good with your financial aid if you are, committing to Purdue, accepting the offer of admission and planning to come in the fall. So one of the things you're going to want to do is just satisfy any financial aid requirements. So what I mean by that, in your My Purdue financial aid tab, you should see an area titled Financial Aid Requirements. And basically, you're just going to follow the steps here, if there are any, to submit whatever information we're requesting. And this can be a variety of things. So it might be a thank you note for a scholarship, or maybe it's verification documents for information on the Fafsa, or a promissory note for a loan. There's a lot of different options there. But the important part is that each requirement will have instructions attached and links to wherever you need to go to complete it. So you shouldn't be lost there. We should be telling you why we need it, what aid it would be affecting, and where you can do to complete all of that. But again, if you ever have a question about a requirement, especially as a new student, we want you to ask so that way we can educate you on what it is you're doing, and you can, rest assured that everything is turning out okay. And on that financial aid requirements list, something I like to tell students too is, you're going to see at first when you have requirements, a lot of like red exclamation marks. And I know I'm the kind of person that likes to check things off, so I hate seeing that. There are some requirements that may not go away right away when you do them. So for instance, if any of you are in the verification process where maybe you had to verify some information that was on the Fafsa, that we do review, on a case-by-case basis and more by hand. So it's not going to automatically change. Or, if you're doing a promissory note for a loan, it usually takes about 2 to 3 business days to actually get to us where we can see that it was completed. So if you've completed your information, don't freak out if you don't see that green check mark right away. Some things just take a little bit of time. So just be diligent about checking those financial aid requirements and you should be good to go. Which leads me greatly into my next step. Ensure your aid is in order. So review those financial aid requirements, make sure you understand them, and then just make sure they're completed before school starts. For most requirements, there's really no hard deadline, but just know that they need to be completed before your aid can be dispersed. So we recommend just taking care of any outstanding requirements ASAP, and that will ensure that the beginning of the year runs really smoothly for you. And next is the real fun part. So after your aid is in order, you're getting ready to come to school, you really just need to pay that outstanding balance on your invoice if you have one. So come July, the Office of the Bursar will issue your billing statement. So while you have a good estimated cost of attendance right now that you can see online or on your award notification, this invoice is going to be the actual number that you owe. So it's going to include tuition and fees and room and board. Something to note when you're looking at that cost of attendance, you've probably seen that things like books are included, miscellaneous expenses. So like we know and we hope that you probably still buy shampoo, soap, all those good things. That's figured in. Travel expenses for going home. That's part of your cost of attendance. And what we mean by that is, you can still receive financial aid for them. And we know that those are costs you're going to incur. However, these aren't things that are billed to you. So that's why someone who maybe has financial aid up to that whole cost of attendance, you might actually have a refund after your aid is applied to the bill. So when you're looking at that bill, you're going to see, any credits you have. And then if there is a negative number, that's means a refund. So don't pay that amount. That's going to be refunded back to you. And you can use that refund for educationally related expenses. And I kind of like to get ahead of this. Most students in their first year, I know, do live in the residence halls. But if you're ever deciding, that you want to live off campus or live in an apartment, some students think that they can't receive financial aid for it or anything like that. But you most definitely can. It's just going to work a little differently. We're going to figure your cost of attendance as an off-campus student. And you're still going to be able to either borrow or have financial aid for your housing. Just instead of it being billed, it's likely going to look like a bigger refund for that student who's living off campus that they then use for rent, utilities, groceries, things like that. So just something to keep in mind, more for the future, but just so you know that that's how it works when there's expenses that may not be billed by the university. So getting back to paying the invoice, the due date for the bill is always the first day of classes. So I believe this upcoming fall, it's August 24th, something around there. And this invoice that comes out is going to be for just your fall semester. So from August to December, and then later on, you're going to get your next invoice that'll be for the spring semester, so January through May. So it'll be broken up. And you're going to want to satisfy your bill by the first day of classes, and you can do this in one of three ways. So the first way I kind of already covered, it's that financial aid either covers the bill, so leaving you with a zero balance or even a refund. The next is that whatever remaining balance you have, you pay in full. And then the last would be, you see that remaining balance, and instead of paying it in full, you just set up an installment plan with the Office of the Bursar for the amount due. Those are three ways that you can satisfy paying the bill. So April did send us an interesting question ahead of time. We actually had two questions. April and Robin both were asking about the GI Bill. So April explained that her husband was in the military and they're planning on using the GI Bill for her son's first 2 years of college. And she says, how do we go about the tuition payment? And then Robin more specifically wanted to know what does Purdue's Yellow Ribbon program look like that's associated with the GI Bill. So the big answer I have for you, GI Bill questions should be directed to the Veteran Success Center at Purdue. They're really the ones that are going to walk you through that and handle that. We will have our moderators post their contact information in the chat. I know that you can call them, email them, or even walk in if you ever are on campus. I do know a little bit that they're basically, if you haven't already, they can help you obtain what's called a certificate of eligibility for that GI Bill. And then when you have it, they'll be the ones to finalize the certification process. So just work with them and they'll be able to help you get that set up. Now, Dana would like to know, do you offer a tuition payment plan at Purdue? And so I kind of went over that with the installment plan, but I'm going to go a little farther into it. So it's called the installment plan. It's through the office of the bursar. So they're the ones that deal with setting that up. They deal with the whole billing side pretty much. And I believe you have to enroll for it online. So it's a $60 setup fee and it's 25% down. And then there's 3 other payments after for the remaining 25% each time. And so that's the installment plan. I've seen it be helpful to a lot of families because sometimes when you see that first number that's due, it can be a little overwhelming, but when it's broken up, it's a lot more manageable. So you can set it up online. You can set up direct deposit online as well. So anytime there is a refund due or anything like that, and they also have automatic deductions that you can do as well. So just kind of exploring that with the Office of the Bursar, asking any questions you need. We'll also post in the chat their contact information. And then another question comes from Sheila. How do we pay tuition from a 529 plan? So the 529 plan, I know that every 529 plan is a little bit different. So you're going to want to basically contact your servicer, whoever you have that plan with, and see what you need to do with them. I know sometimes the parents will receive the check and then they pay the university, and with other 529 plans, it goes straight to the university. That's why I say check with them and potentially act early. I know that sometimes it can take a little bit of time depending on who you're working with. So probably just knowing what you need to do ahead of time, contacting them now is a good idea. We're going to move into a little bit of just some tips and advice for both students and parents, other things to think about as you're digesting these next steps. So advice to students, one important one that we always say is, talk to your parents and guardians, especially about your expenses. So, this is new for you, probably likely the first time that you're going to be living on your own. Ask questions if you're not sure what something is, because it's, better to come in with a plan, kind of know what you're getting into, than go in clueless and have to ask later. So take this time with your parents, make sure that you have a good plan for just kind of how your spending will go, what expenses you're in charge of, things like that. And another very important one, check and read your Purdue email, students. I can't stress this enough. I know I didn't use email quite as much before college. And then I got to college and I realized how much you use email. It's the official mode of communication for the university, and you're going to be notified not just from our office, but other offices, if professors need to communicate with you, different things like that. So just get into the habit of checking that email and you'll receive all the important information you need. And do watch if you're forwarding it to a Gmail account or something like that. It's better to get into the habit of logging into that Purdue email, because what we found is some important information gets lost in the spam folder if you are forwarding it. So just a word of advice as you're navigating, your routine and setting all of that up. And also keep in touch with us on social media. We can drop those links in as well, but we have Facebook and Twitter. We actually set it up this year. We're trying really hard to coordinate our messaging. So when we send you an email, our goal is also to get on Twitter and have a little blurb about it and just have some fun information to share with you, some budgeting information, a bunch of different things. So if you can follow us on social media, maybe you didn't check your email an hour ago, but if you're scrolling through Twitter, you might find something important that you didn't know about. So we really want to reach you where you are. We really want to connect. Please keep in touch, like and follow on social media. And then parents, word of advice for you as well. As much as your students need to check in with you, make sure you discuss your expectations with your students. So about managing money, about credit cards, about what they're responsible for. Just this being their first time doing something so big, it's really good to have that guidance from their parents and guardians. Also, coach your students about their new responsibilities, get them prepped, and please, keep informed, alert the Division of Financial Aid if you do have special circumstances or changes in income, so that way we can work with you and see what's best for your family. All right, and then a little thing we did also want to say, we get the question so often from non-resident students and families about residency changes and, what exactly qualifies for a residency change to get in-state tuition. Please do know that, while there are always circumstances that do warrant, a residency change, students who come to Indiana typically just to pursue higher education will probably not be granted Indiana residency. But our Office of the Registrar officially determines that at our university. So really the best thing to do is reach out to the Office of the Registrar if you have questions about that, or if you think you have a circumstance that would qualify you for getting that state residency. And we'll have our moderators post their information in the chat as well. I know it's a lot of different offices to sort of keep track of who does what, but that would be where you want those residency questions. And we do have a few other survey questions that I'm going to go ahead and address, and just we can kind of go from there, see if there are any others in the chat. And hopefully, we've answered a lot of your burning questions. We did have a question from Bernadette about legacy scholarships. So she said that she graduated from Purdue and her son received a legacy scholarship, but she's not sure. She doesn't see any that were awarded to her daughters. So as far as I know, the Division of Financial Aid doesn't administer a legacy scholarship. I'd maybe double check what organization that was through or where it was awarded from, and see what their criteria is for those scholarships. I do know whether it's, private scholarship or a departmental scholarship, just depending on the criteria, the size of the class, different things like that may dictate whether or not a similar student will receive an award one year and not the other. So I'd maybe just double check to see who that was through and what that criteria was. Now, another great question we received about scholarships came from Charlotte. She said, some scholarships come at the time of your admissions decision. And, that was basically those merit scholarships that we did notify students of in the offer of admission letter. She says, if a student who received a scholarship does not attend Purdue, will their scholarship be given to another student? So we actually take that into account when awarding our scholarships. So we don't do a redistribution of them. So, the students who receive a merit scholarship, they'll have them, but don't, necessarily expect that someone's going to reach out and say there are more available. I would definitely, again, say that whatever is on your award notification is what you should plan for. And then Carrie would like to know, are the merit scholarships generally the same from year to year, assuming the student meets the GPA requirements? Yeah, as long as the student meets renewal requirements for the merit scholarships, the amounts shouldn't change. The only way an amount would change would potentially be if residency changed, then the scholarship would be adjusted accordingly. In-state is lower tuition, so we have a different amount for the merit scholarships for in-state students versus out-of-state students, a little higher scholarships with higher bills, things like that. But otherwise, it shouldn't change. Just meet those renewal criteria, and you should expect to see that scholarship follow you. Right, and then Katie sent us the following message. She said, is it possible to apply for scholarships through Purdue even if you are no longer an incoming freshman? Are you able to change your residency to become eligible for in-state tuition? And what are other ways a student can lower the cost of tuition or room and board? So we'll unpack this, some very good information to kind of end on and have you thinking about. So students are always able to apply for more scholarship opportunities. The only scholarships that are truly and solely for incoming freshmen would be those merit scholarships. So, sophomores aren't going to get a notification of a merit scholarship their sophomore year unless they already had one their freshman year. But as I mentioned a few times throughout this live, there's always the chance to apply for departmental scholarships each year as a returning student. And there's also always the opportunity just to keep looking for private scholarships. We have some resources on our website. And if you've been in our scholarship database at all, that's called Scholarship Universe, you can log in with your Purdue credentials. And that also can match you to external scholarships. They're vetted, so you know that they're good. It's not like a hoax or anything like that. And really to ensure that, you're being matched to outside scholarships, you just want to make sure you keep your profile up to date. So there'll be questions that you're asked when you log into Scholarship Universe or create an account. And you'll just want to keep that up to date so that way you can get matched to scholarships. But that's a great way. Checking with your community foundation, with your parents' employers, just other places. It might be small amounts here and there, but what I always tell students is every little bit helps, and it feels good just to kind of go out there and see what other opportunities there are. So that's something to keep watching as well. And this question, she also had asked about the residency again. Like I said, residency changes, sometimes they can be challenging. It's not that they don't happen or there aren't circumstances that warrant them. Again, just check with the Office of Registrar and you should be able to get that information. And then something else that's really good, she's asking just what are other ways a student can lower the cost of tuition or room and board. And, whether in-state or out of state, there are a lot of expenses associated with college, obviously, and you want to keep as many down as possible. So we totally get that. As I mentioned, sometimes if you're looking for a little bit extra, you can look at whether it's Parent Plus loans or private loans, some loan options. But really the important thing to know always is that can be a tool in financing your education, but it doesn't have to be your only way. So we typically say borrow only what you need. So maybe if borrowing this much amount, makes it a little more manageable and you can figure out the rest, then, that's what you can do instead of just borrowing up to that entire cost of attendance. And then you may have heard about income share agreements. It's something that Purdue offers, not for freshmen, but sophomores and above. So it's something to keep in mind for your returning students for those, the subsequent years that you're going to be at Purdue. I'll do a tiny brief overview. Basically, an income share agreement is, it's not a loan, but it's a contract. And you agree to pay back a certain percentage of your post-graduation income for a certain amount of years. So it's our loan alternative, kind of pioneering sort of that movement. And we've had some students find it a really useful tool, something that you can research more about on our website and just think about as you're moving through your years. And then I always tell students, just shop around for everything. So just because your cost of attendance budgets out so much in books or, travel expenses or miscellaneous, it doesn't mean that you're going to end up spending that entire amount. So like one thing you could even do as you're looking when you're starting to rank what residence halls you want to live in or what your meal plan is, try to be realistic maybe about how often you're going to eat in the dining courts or what you're going to do with that, and just kind of look at those different residence hall rates as well and see what works for you. And same with if you ever move off campus, really explore the options at the apartments, what amenities do you get versus what rent is, what's the best bang for your buck essentially. And with books, rent books or get the online version, rent used. There's so many different options now. And unless your professor tells you to get your books from a certain store or place, you don't have to go with any preferred place. We're not just going to tell you to shop at one location. You can find your books and your supplies wherever. So really shop around when you're doing that, because it can definitely help keep those costs down. And the last thing that we inform students about too, student employment, when used correctly, can be a great tool in helping manage the day-to-day expenses and even keep some of those college expenses down. So if you were awarded federal work study on your award notification, you can take advantage of that and look for, most of them are on-campus positions, or there are some off-campus positions with nonprofit agencies and some of the elementary schools nearby. And then there's also just a lot of employment opportunities in general on and off campus and near campus. And what we typically recommend for students is working a manageable 8 to 12 hours a week. It helps with day-to-day expenses. And it's actually proven that the students who are working in that manageable sweet spot of those hours are getting better grades, probably because they're learning time management skills, some different professional skills that are really helping you out, even with your homework. Don't go above that. Don't cut into your study time. Definitely see what works for you. But the employers on campus and near campus are very used to working with student schedules, and it can really be helpful for you as you're navigating trying to pay for Purdue. So I hope that addresses mostly everyone's questions. I think that's all the time we have for today. I think we went through a lot. You've got a lot to kind of unpack and think about as you get on with your evening and everything. And we hope that it was very helpful and informative. If you have any questions, our team is always here to help. So again, reach out. I know mainly right now it's probably by phone and email if you're not all on campus. But again, we're happy to answer your questions. Please reach out to us. The moderators in the chat will share the contact info for admissions, our contact info again, registrar, bursar, maybe give you a quiz, see if you can keep track of what office does what. But feel free to reach out to any one of us because we want to make this transition smooth for you and answer all of your questions. If you do have an idea for a future video or guide, please share it with us in the comment section below. We'd love to hear about your suggestions. And otherwise, have a great rest of your evening. And as always, boiler up.